thoughts in response to the demise of Daddy Lumba. The Ghanaians will know the name, the rest of you won't, but it doesn't matter. The lessons are applicable all round. So Daddy Lumba is one of the biggest musicians, Ghanaian high life musicians, certainly the ones in my age group, the ones who've lived in my lifetime. He's one of the big ones. He was big when I was a child, and he remained big until his demise earlier on this year. These lessons come from different domains, so I'm going to pick them from the angles, and I'll pick the lessons for you. Let's start with the men. Daddy Lumba is a man. He is a man who achieved quite a lot, but as is typical of people who achieve a lot from that particular jurisdiction, his demise has brought quite a lot of drama. Let's explain the drama. Daddy Lumba has a wife, a woman he married and lived in Germany with. But obviously, in his latter days, guess what? There was a lot of storytelling. He was in Ghana most of the time, refused to go to Germany. And I have been completely blindsided by some of the foolishness I have heard, peddled in the shroud of wisdom, supposedly advising this woman. And I'm going to unpick it. So let's start from Daddy Lumba. I always say, the way you live your life and the way you handle your affairs will always kick off in your demise. Those who put their affairs right, there is peace, there is calm when they are gone. Those who don't, well, what we've just seen has happened. Daddy Lumba was living in Ghana. I understand that he has young children, 5 young children, if the rhetoric on social media is to be believed. With this new woman, he did not marry. He married the one in Germany, but the one in Germany did not own the man either. He abandoned her for years, and he came to Ghana. And the stupidity I have heard, let's come to that later. You see, I always say to men, you have to be decisive. You really do. If you find that you no longer want a woman who is in her 60s and you think a 30-something-year-old, 40-something-year-old is who you want, the decent thing to do is to tie your loose ends. Wrap up the relationship. Wrap it up. If Daddy Lumba had ended up his relationship with this Mami Sewa woman, and he had come to Ghana to come be with Odobroni, it would not be an issue. But you see, he left both women in limbo. And I'm very sure if you asked both women in their private moments, they were all taken advantage of. Both of them taken advantage of. Both of them have been dragged through the mud. And I don't even see which crime either of them committed, except the younger one. I don't know what she was told, but men can tell all sorts of tales, can't they? The first one, though, she, for me, is the one who always would have my sympathy. You marry a guy, you struggle with a guy, you build with a guy, and later on, when things improve, that's when they realize that better women exist. I've seen some commentary around his 60th birthday when he said something about when real love doesn't come early. I found that so insulting, but okay. Anyway, you see, by leaving these two women in limbo, by not clarifying who was wife and who was not wife, by not completing rights, by leaving things hanging, you left people to interpret things differently. So the one who was married since 1644 was not divorced. And so everybody was expecting her to be the wife. And yeah, she came down to be in mourning. I felt that woman was very generous because, to be honest, under the same circumstances, I may not have been convinced to come back down and do what? So I can be mocked, so people can take the mick out of me. Let's come to some of the foolishness I've heard from people. Why wouldn't the woman leave Germany and come? Let me laugh at you in capital letters. Look, within every couple, within every set of parents, somebody will have to be responsible at some point. Yeah. They lived in Germany with their children, built life in Germany. I'm sure that's the agreement they had when they married. They were in Germany. This woman had made her way to Germany. She's had her children in Germany. Why should she pick her bags and go to Ghana? For what? because suddenly somebody has the whim to go to Ghana. And yes, as a Ghanaian girl, I can tell you, when the men want to go to Ghana, and they want to go to Ghana for the sake of a woman, even if you follow him there, even if you pull the hairs out of your nostrils, that game is over anyway. So at that point, you need to start thinking as a strategic adult, as one with responsibility for young people, one who cannot just up sticks and go and abandon ship for your children. If the father refuses to be responsible, guess who needs to step in and play both roles? And I'm very sure that those who are close to this woman, those who have observed her, will bear me up, that when he had left, all the responsibilities for the home, regardless of whatever, will be dumped on her. She will be the one who has to do at least all the parenting, all the caregiving. She will have to do all the things to do with children. I dare say that he would not have been sending money from Ghana to come do nothing for her in Germany. She would have had to work. She would have had to hustle. She would have had to figure things out to make sure her kids are good. That's what a smart woman will do. That's what a wise woman will do when confronted with this choice. When a man has already made his choice, when it's nearly impossible to convince a man to do otherwise, when the relationship itself is on its final legs, you need to start thinking that you are more than just a person in a relationship, and you have to think about your long-term survival. So yes, if I were in Germany and a guy offered me, went somewhere without agreeing with me, and suddenly could not find flights to come back and was making all excuses not to come back, no, I will not pick my bags and go to Ghana either. Going to Ghana under those circumstances would be silly. It would jeopardize her future. It would have jeopardized her children. At least now, when things have crumbled, everything settles. See, that woman doesn't really need to fight for property with nobody. No. Everything they own in Ghana can be given to the new girl in Ghana. It doesn't matter, because the one in Germany, it wouldn't take her a few years and she would be able to restore that if she wants. But at her age, if her children live in Germany and she owes nothing in Ghana, it doesn't even matter. She can still have a very reasonable life. I have seen many women also make that stupid decision to up their jobs. There's a friend of mine who quit her nursing job and went to chase a man who wanted to go to Ghana. Guess what? In the end, her job in the UK was lost. When she went to Ghana, she was beaten by girls in Ghana who were in pursuit of the few £100 that the guy had. The guy deceived her to bring her savings, and eventually her savings were used to secure places for other women. And she ended up homeless and needed to borrow money to run back to the UK to try and reconstruct her life. What is the point of that? What is the point of doing that? So no, a woman who decides not to gamble at all, to go back to Ghana, go back to Nigeria, wherever the person comes from, on the whim of a man, not on any strategic agreements, not based on any facts, but just the fact that the guy wants to go. It's usually when guys actually insist that they are going back to your home country, you best know that they already have somebody. They already have somebody. They have somebody in mind. They are returning to somebody, and that somebody is not you. In fact, if you foolishly tag along most of the time, you are here to make a fool of yourself. You are here to encourage people to squander your inheritance. You are here to lose your opportunities. These are times where you have to sit and think like a strategic person with a brain and ask yourself, what is the best thing to do in the long-term interest of my survival and the people who depend on me? This guy has made his decision. He's gone to Ghana. Why didn't she quit to come and care for him? Why should she quit to come and care for him? Why should she? What is in it for her? Why should she leave everything and come here just because? Why couldn't he stay where they were? Why couldn't he stay where they were? Why couldn't he be faithful? He was not doing much for music in Ghana. In fact, he could have had much better healthcare in Germany. At this age, he would have probably enjoyed himself more if he wanted to be in a place where services were offered with his family. It was attractive to come to Ghana because there were women here that he was coming to. That is unfortunately, one of the main reasons why people do that. And if that was the case, how stupid would it be for a woman to abandon her option and come here? You see, now the one in Ghana is here with all the people in Ghana and all his family members to fight for every little thing they can get. The scramble is bloody. This woman from Germany, the way she has chosen to uphold herself, does not need to get into any struggle with nobody. She can walk away from here, wipe her hands, go to Germany, find where she was living in Germany, and continue to live peacefully and peaceably in Germany the way she has been the last few years. She's been a widow much longer than she actually is a widow. In fact, she was a divorcee before she was a widow. And that's why I would probably not have been convinced in that situation to come and play the widow's role, because I was not a widow. I'd have been a divorcee. The second person here of interest are these young girls that these men come back to you lying to most of the time. Their first wife stinks. Their first wife doesn't respect. Their first wife, after 35 years. Yeah. It's surprising how many women do not understand this very simple thing. If a guy is an infidel to the one before you, what are the chances that he will not be an infidel to you? If a guy is an opportunist and has taken the life of a fellow woman, the youth of a fellow woman, wasted it, and now run to you to enjoy your youth, and you don't think for 3 seconds that your outcomes will be similar. Now I hear that this lady has 5 young children. How is she going to care for these 5 young children? I'm very sure the one in Germany was caring for her children, you know. I hope the one here in this situation also knows how to care for her children. Because if, my sister, you do not know how to care for the children that you are going to have with this guy, you are the most stupid of them all. Your stupidity is going to cost your children a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. That's what it will cost them. I'm sorry, my internet is dodgy, so there was a little bit of an interruption. Let's continue. When these guys come to you with all these stories, I don't know how the little girls can't be tactical and start thinking you are 30-something, 40-something. A 60-something-year-old man wants to have little children with you. How long do you think that this 60-something-year-old man is going to live with you? Even if he doesn't die early, by his mid-70s, he will not have the energy to do any active jobs to be able to bring decent income for you to be able to live well with your children. By the time your children are in their late teens, when they are at the peak of the expenditure, this person will be retired. And guess who needs to step in, standing in the gap where the other partner is not, will be you. And it's surprising how this is not recognized by so many women. Anyway, to each their own, and when you make your bed, you lie in it. You notice that my sympathy is not really with the second woman, because I think the second woman made choices consciously. The first woman is often the one where things are forced onto you. You are already married. You have already been married to this guy for a long time. Everybody will advise you. The church will advise you. The Lord is against divorce. Don't let a woman steal your home. Don't let another woman take your home. And yeah, it's very difficult for these women to start thinking about what will serve them. But at the end of the day, as I always say, it is each one for himself, God for us all. Repeat after me, sisters. Each one for himself, God for us all. And brothers, the evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often turned with their bones, but the evil that men do lives after them. The things you do in your lifetime, the funny meanders you do, Yeah, no, you never really escape them. They come to roost. Why didn't she stop everything she was doing to come and care for him? Why would she stop everything she's doing to come and care for an infidel? Why would she? That reminds me of another story that somebody was telling me after this kicked off. There's a guy who ran away from his wife, abandoned his wife literally, and went to live with another woman. And then in the middle of it, had a stroke. And the second woman calls the wife, the legitimate wife, to come and take her husband. Obviously, the woman didn't go. The illegitimate quickly went and dumped him in the hospital and run. By the time people had nagged this legitimate wife to go and check him out, he had already passed. He was in the morgue for 3 days. And now she was asked to come and do the widow's rights, and I will not. If a guy abandons you and he runs, don't sit